The cart creaked east on the Milford Road, and Aldrich might have driven right past her if the last light had not caught the gray of her tusks. She was sitting on the flat stone at the crossroads, the one travelers used to rest a pack, with a single canvas bundle between her feet and the look of someone who had decided, quietly, not to move again until morning. She was an orc woman, older, broad across the shoulders, her traveling coat patched at both elbows. Her left boot was unlaced, and there was road dust on everything. The wagon that had left her was long gone. There was no other soul at the crossroads, and the dark was coming down fast from the ridge. Aldrich pulled his horse up. Evening, he said. She looked at him. Her eyes were steady and unhurried, the color of good river clay. Evening, she said back. He sat there a moment. The horse shifted. Aldrich was not a man who talked in circles, so he said the plain thing. Road behind me goes to Fenwick. Road ahead goes nowhere worth sleeping. I've a spare room, and the kettle's still warm. She studied him the way a person studies something they are deciding whether to trust. I'm not a beggar, she said. I didn't say you were. She picked up her bundle, stood, and he saw the slight hitch in her step, the left ankle swollen above the unlaced boot. She climbed up beside him without help and without fuss, and he turned the cart toward home. Her name was Mora. She did not offer more than that the first night, and he did not ask for more than that. He made tea and set out bread and a bowl of the bean stew he'd had for supper. She ate with the quiet thoroughness of someone who had not eaten since morning. He showed her the spare room. His wife's sewing things were still on the shelf, a fact he had never known how to change. And she thanked him and closed the door, and that was the end of the first night. He was up before dawn, as he always was. He was surprised to find her already at the window of the spare room, looking out at the orchard. "What's wrong with your trees?" she asked when he came down. He looked out at them with her. 23 apple trees, and in the gray morning light even he could see what he had been trying not to see for 2 seasons. The bark rough and scabbed on the lower trunks, the leaf tips browning early, a slow dying working up from the roots. "I don't know," he said honestly. "The harvest has been getting smaller. I've tried cutting the worst branches back." She was quiet a moment. "It's a canker. Comes from wet ground, sitting too long against the roots after rain. You need to open the soil in a ring around each trunk, let it breathe, and pack in dry ash mixed with river clay. It takes a season to turn, but it turns." He looked at her. "I grew up tending trees," she said, by way of explanation, and went to put her boots on. She worked alongside him that first day without being asked and without ceremony, the same way. She had climbed into his cart. She walked each tree and pressed her thumb into the bark and made small sounds of assessment and told him which could be saved and which were too far gone. Her hands were calloused and sure. She knew things about the angle of root slope and the smell of sick soil that Aldrich had never learned in 30 years of farming. He followed her lead and said very little except to ask the occasional question, which she answered without condescension. At midday, she sat on the low stone wall at the orchard's edge and ate the bread he brought her and looked out at the valley. "My son's had a freight business," she said, not looking at him. "Took me on the road with them after my husband passed. I slowed them down." She paused. "They are not bad men. They are busy men. It is not quite the same thing, but it rhymes." Aldrich sat beside her on the wall. "How long were you at that crossroads before I came along?" "Since morning." He said nothing to that. There was nothing to say that would help. "I'm grateful for the room," she said. "I'll stay until the ankle is sound, and then I'll find my way to my clan's hall. It's 2 days east of Milford. Stay through the ash packing," he said. "The trees need it done right." She looked at him sideways, the ghost of something warm in her expression. "That'll be a week," she said. "I know," he said. They worked together for 3 more days. He learned that she had a particular laugh, low and brief, surprised out of her by things she found genuinely amusing, never performed. He learned that she woke before the birds and liked the first hour of the day silent. He learned that she had opinions about soil drainage that were difficult to argue with because they were correct. She told him, in pieces, about the valley her clan had settled 3 generations back, a valley not so different from this one, with the same late spring flooding and the same clay-heavy soil, and how her mother's mother had negotiated a land share with the settlers there back in a time when that sort of talking was done face-to-face over a table and not through men with papers. He listened the way he listened to things that mattered. On the 4th morning, before the light had fully come, he heard horses on the road, not 1 or 2, but several, a measured pace, no hurry in it. He came out to the gate and found 4 riders there, 3 older orcmen in good wool traveling coats, and behind them, keeping a careful distance from one another, 2 younger men, human, in merchants' clothes, who had the particular look of people who wished they were somewhere else entirely. The eldest of the orc riders dismounted. He was white-haired and straight-backed, with the careful bearing of a man who had represented people in difficult rooms. "We're looking for Mora, founding daughter of the Delvara line," he said, and the words had the weight of a title in them, not just a name. "We were told by a miller in Fenwick that a farmer on the East Road had taken her in 4 nights ago." Aldrich said, "She's in the orchard. I'll take you to her." He heard Mora's voice before he saw her. She had heard the horses too and was already walking toward them through the apple. Rose, her ankle still wrapped, but her step steady, her chin up. The eldest rider went to meet her and pressed both her hands between his in a formal greeting that spoke of long standing and deep respect. "We came as soon as the miller's boy reached us," he said quietly. "I'm sorry it took 4 days." "It took 4 days," she said. "That's done." She looked past him at her sons. They came forward and stood before her, and she let them stand there in silence long enough that it meant something. And then she nodded and said, "We'll speak at home," and that was all. They looked no less relieved for the brevity of it, and no less ashamed. The eldest rider turned to Aldrich. He reached into his coat and brought out a small item, a token, worked in copper, engraved with the Delvera tree mark, the kind of thing that opened certain doors in certain market halls, and meant something to people who knew what it meant. "The Delverland thanks you," he said, "for the room and the table and the plain decency." Aldrich turned the token in his hands. "She's the one who's been saving my orchard," he said. There was a small silence, and then Mora laughed her low, brief, surprised laugh, and even the eldest rider smiled. She stayed through the week. She stayed, in fact, through the ash packing, and through the first proper rain after it, when they stood at the orchard's edge together and watched the water move away from the trunks the way it was supposed to, draining outward, not sitting. She showed him how to read the soil after rain, how to know by color and smell whether the canker was loosening its grip. On the last morning, he found her bundle by the door, packed and ready, and the kettle already on. They drank their tea in the first quiet hour, the way they had come to do, without talking much. "The trees will come back," she said at last. "I think so," he said. "Come next harvest," she said. "If it's a good one, bring a bushel to the Delvara Hall. Ask for me by name." He said he would. She walked out to where the Delvera riders were waiting on the road. Her step even now, the ankle healed. She did not look back. That was not her way. But at the gate she paused and pressed one hand to the gatepost for a moment, the way a person touches something they are marking in their memory. And then she was gone. Aldrich stood at the orchard's edge and looked at his trees in the morning light. He could see the difference already in the ones they'd treated first. The bark was still rough, but it was roughness with color in it again. A living roughness, not the gray of something giving up. A man learned, if he was paying attention, that most things worth saving just needed someone to notice them before they were past noticing. And to do the plain, unhurried work of helping them back. He picked up his tools and walked into the rows and started on the next tree.